This is Darlene McElroy, Extending Grace podcast host. We are going to bridge into our second part of my last podcast on separating from unhealthy relationships to looking at different relationships from a biblical perspective and also looking at what makes that relationship have a strong foundation. Now, the only relationship where conflict does not occur does not exist. The only relationship where conflict doesn't occur doesn't exist. Conflict is not a bad word, nor does it need to be avoided. It's not a four-letter word. Relationships can benefit from conflict. When we perceive conflict correctly, it can build stronger relationships, teaching us how to better communicate, bringing self-awareness to your needs and desires, and being able to express that, bringing self-awareness to your role in not getting your needs and desires met. Conflict can also teach how to problem solve through compromise. It increases emotional resilience. Now, conflict does more than these few things, but just to kind of give you an idea that conflict is not a terrible thing at all. But conflict is almost impossible to resolve when a relationship has the majority of different values. We're bridging from the natural and spiritual boundaries over to boundaries being the foundation of any relationship. If you haven't listened to the previous podcast on separate from unhealthy relationships, take some time to listen to that one because that's the bridge that we're taking the leap to today. We discuss values and boundaries within that podcast. Today, we're going to explore 3 different types of relationship from the Bible. And we're going to look at how the values either align or did not align as the foundation for the relationship. The first relationship is a sibling relationship between 2 sisters, Mary and Martha. Now, a summary of the relationship is what I'm going to give, but you can read this story from Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. Now, we have Mary and Martha that are working at home, and Jesus comes through with his disciples because they're traveling, and they would often go to Mary and Martha's house. Mary and Martha are the sisters of Lazarus, whom Jesus raised from the dead. So Martha is there preparing everything for them, and she gets very frustrated with Mary for not helping her. Martha then requests that Jesus tell Mary to get up and help. Jesus does not respond to Martha the way she would like, but he tells her that Mary has chosen the better thing. So it's not that Jesus didn't value Martha and what she was doing. He placed a higher emphasis or a higher value over the cooking and the cleaning, and he supports Mary. If you look at their actions, they're telling you what they value. Martha values hospitality. Mary values understanding and learning from Jesus. Their actions tell you what they value. The conflict comes in because they have different values at this particular time. Now, it doesn't mean that Mary doesn't value helping Martha or Martha doesn't value Jesus, because we know from the Mary and Martha's own background, they are both believers, and that is why Jesus is there. They believe, and they're followers of Christ. But at this particular time, their values are different, and there is a conflict. Martha has decided to do what she wanted to do, and that was to clean and to cook and prepare. Mary decided to do what she wanted to do, and that's to sit at Jesus' feet and learn. The conflict is from the different values at that time. Nothing big here, but just to kind of give you a snippet how conflict can occur. Now, I'm sure for Martha, it was big. And I think it's pretty cool, too, that Martha felt so comfortable with Jesus that she gets them in on their sibling conflict. I mean, I think it's pretty cool that she was that comfortable to say, hey, why don't you tell her what to do? But she needs to be up here helping me. That's a very good relationship that she can express those emotions with Jesus. And I think we have the same opportunity that we can express ourselves to him. And, you might get a no, or you might get a yes, or you may get, you know what, let's just choose the better thing right now. Another relationship that we're going to look at is a friendship between Jonathan and David. And you can read about this particular friendship in 1 Samuel chapters 18, 19, and 20. A summary of this would be that Jonathan's father is King Saul, and King Saul has been rejected by God because he was disobedient, very disobedient, just wouldn't listen. So God rejected King Saul, and he's raising up David to be the next king. Well, King Saul, it is very insanely jealous of David, and he is going after him left and right. And David is running all around the country trying to not be killed nor kill King Saul. Jonathan, the Bible says that Jonathan loved David as his own soul. Jonathan, now who is King Saul's son, he still protects David from his father. There are no conflict between these two friends because if you look at it, their action tells you what they value. Their value is in loyalty, in friendship, and selflessness. Because Jonathan gives up what he really because he could have said, I should be the next king in this succession, but he did not do that. They have a very strong bond because of the values. Our last relationship that we're going to look at, and there's many to pull from, is your true ride and die couple. And I mean for real, for real. Ananias and Sapphira, found in Acts chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. I'm going to give you a summary of that. This is on the cusp of the early church that are working together and building what we call church today. They're working towards one community for the common good of all. And Acts chapter 4 and 32 states that now the full number of those who believed were of one heart and soul. And no one said that any of the things that belonged to him was his own, but they had everything in common. Acts chapter 5, we're introduced to Ananias and Sapphira. Ananias sells his property, decides to keep some of the money from the apostles, and then he lies about it. Now, when you read the account, you'll see that it's not about him keeping some of the money. It was about lying about it because it was his to keep. He didn't have to. He chose to sell, but for whatever reason, he decided to lie about it and keep some from himself, for himself. On the spot, he dies because he lied to the apostles. Well, and the apostles say, you lied to the Holy Spirit. 3 hours later, his wife comes along. Now, she's aware that he kept the money and that his intentions are to lie, but she's not aware that he is dead. So the apostles ask her, and she says the same thing, and she dies. This is why I'm saying they are a real ride and die couple. Now, as horrible as this scene is, they too have similar values. Their values are just unhealthy. They're dishonest, a value of greed. Values shape the relationship. And this is why I'm saying that your values will be the foundation to your relationship. Well, they should be. And if you know any couples that are planning to get married, you may want to pass this podcast on to them because it's very important that we understand what values each person has, or even in friendships. If you have people that are struggling with friendships, look at what they're valuing and you will find why you're having a conflict. Values are enduring beliefs that guide an individual's behavior and choices, reflecting what is important or desirable to the person. In other words, values will be something that you care deeply about. Again, these values are your belief system that's going to guide your behavior. It is now values can change over time and it can change with maturity. But if you're looking to be equally yoked, friendship, co-worker, it really doesn't matter what type of relationship. You want to know, do we align? Because if you don't, you're going to run into a lot of problems. Let me give you some scriptures that talk about relationships. Proverbs 22:24 through 25. Do not make friends with a hot-tempered person. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get in yourself ensnared. We talked about being equally yoked in the last podcast. You're going to go the same direction if you're yoked up with the person. A yoke was used to put two animals together for the same purpose, going the same direction. And so if you are yoked up with people, and as Proverbs says 22, with a hot tempered person, then you may learn their ways and get ensnared yourself. So if someone cannot value how to communicate, how to regulate their own emotion. And you'll know if they don't value it because they won't attempt to do it. You can only do what you believe in. First Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. This reminds us that negative influences can harm even good relationships. And we see this between Ananias and Sapphira. Bad company. One of them could have chosen and say, hey, you know what? This is my money. This is my property. I don't want to give it. Just be honest. I don't want to give it. But it ruined their relationship. Similar values, but still ruined the relationship. Unhealthy values. Ecclesiastes 4:9 through 10. Two are better than one. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. Now, I want you to consider this. If you need support from a friendship, from a marriage, from a co-worker type relationship, who's going to pick you up if you got different values? So if someone believes that it's okay to steal from the job, and you're tempted to steal, they're going to encourage you to steal because that's what they do too. So when you're looking at people to see iron sharpen iron, well, you know what? You got to have similar values there too. That's not about control. That's about helping one another. Relationships and community comes from God. From the very beginning of Genesis, in the book of Genesis, God said that it was not good for man to be alone. God gave Adam Eve, and God also fellowship with them, building community. It is God's design that we have relationships. It is also God's design and his desire that we learn what separates us from believers and unbelievers, what separates us from a true disciple and one that's not a true disciple, and it also may be one who's not as mature. Now, of course, if you're on a different spiritual maturity level, that's not to say don't be around, or don't help mentor that person. But you don't want a whole group of people who are on a different level than you are, because that's going to make it might pull you. You might be able to be stronger enough to do it, but chances are, you're going to go the same direction. When we are in conflict, we want it to be productive. In order for it to be reproductive, the relationship must have a foundation of similar values in the areas that will matter. Now, that does not mean that every value would be the same, but think about things like, how do I govern my life? How do I want to govern my finances? What do I believe as far as raising children? What do I want in a friendship? These will establish your boundaries. Your values actually tell you your boundaries, because your boundaries are those things that you're going to implement. Boundaries are not things that you can force on someone, but they're things that you will implement in your life. It's your guiding set of principles. If you are asked what your boundaries are, they will stem from your values, your principles, the way you guide your life. Why settle for relationships when someone has so many different values than you, especially in the area of your faith? Why settle for that when it's going to be a major conflict? If unless you decide that we're not going to discuss this, and you go your way for spirituality and I go my way for spirituality, and if you're okay with that. But if you're wanting a relationship where you both honor God with the relationship, that needs to have that same foundation. How can you make decisions when your core values are opposite? I'm not going to say that you're going to be all, peaches and cream because you have similar values, but you're going to go different directions on those core things that matter. We cannot change others. We cannot make others respect our boundaries if we don't even respect our own values. How do you know that you don't respect your values? When you hook up with people who have many different values than you are, than what you have. That's you saying it doesn't matter to me. What I believe doesn't matter. I'm going to just be around who I want to be around. Well, that's fine. But then don't expect people to respect your boundaries. You've already opened the door to a pathway that says, I don't respect my own boundaries. It is a disrespect to your life to attempt to be in communion with another friend or a coworker or a spouse where the values are vastly different. Now, if you're married and you realize you have different values, I'm not telling you to go to get a divorce because we talked about that in the previous podcast. But you want to look at, do we have similar values? Is this where the conflict is, and how can we resolve it? Look at the actions of a person and you will know their values. Values are the foundation of any relationship. If you want to be equally yoked, look at the values. Move way beyond the material things. Material things can be accomplished more easily than you trying to change the core of who someone else is. Our next podcast, we will explore how values give purpose to the relationship. In the meantime, remain in God, stand firm in your values, maintain what you believe by having the behaviors that reflect your values.